So Ali asked me to speak about APLA and why I'm running, and I'd like to start with a quote from Alfred Adler, one of my favorite psychology theorists. Since true happiness is inseparable from the feeling of giving, it is clear that the social person is much closer to happiness than the isolated person striving for superiority. The social person's sense of belonging can only be won by being involved, by cooperating, and by being useful to others. Out of this emerges a lasting, genuine feeling of worthiness.
To me, this is really just where the yoga happens, a bunch of people coming together. Just with open hearts and open minds to make something good happen. Trying to take the left hip forward, so you're going to take the inner edge of the left leg and spin it toward the wall behind you. And then ease the right hip back. Now you can bring the arms back in if you drop them. Shoulders, gazing toward the horizon, right over the front fingertips.
Palms to the heart, pause. Have a moment, find your balance. And go ahead, close your eyes, give it a go. Doesn't matter, you're gonna step down. Everyone does. Once you step down, palms to the heart. If you haven't stepped down, congratulations, step down.
Bring the hands together to Namaste and raise that to the forehead. Show me what I need to see. And to the lips, help me say what needs to be heard. And then to the heart, help me live my truth from the heart. Namaste.
Hi, I'm Greg. That's great that you're doing a marathon. I mean, a marathon's on my bucket list too. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but we'll see. I mean, it's bad. I'm doing a swim for equality at Zuma Beach. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. It's 1.7 miles. So I'm a diver, I'm not a swimmer. It's like, oh no. So it was funny because like I was at the kickoff for the Human Rights Campaign, kickoff for the Swim for Equality, and I was speaking, and then some guy offered to sponsor. We have to raise $2,000 to swim. So somebody offered to sponsor five swimmers. And 2 hands went up right away, and then there was nothing. And I thought, God, that's like, $2,000 for, each person. So I threw up my hand, and then 2 other people volunteered too. And then I turned to my partner, and I said, can I do this? Not thinking, could I do it physically? I was thinking, is it on my calendar? Is my calendar clear that I can do it? And then it was a week later, and I read the profile, of the PR stuff, that it's 1.7 miles. And I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So it'll be interesting. Hopefully I'll make it through. But it's like one of those things, you just kind of get in and start, and it's just like, one step in front of the other. Do you have any questions, or anybody?
What made you decide to get into yoga?
What made me decide to get into yoga? It's really interesting because, I feel like, all young kids should start with yoga, really, because the one thing that my coach always told me is that the difference between me and the Chinese is I would breathe through my dive, and it's something that I learned at a very early age. Of course, the way that I learned was I was in dance and acrobatics when I was a year and a half, and I had a teacher who was screaming at me, breathe, 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 through my tumbling runs or, things like that. And then if I wasn't pointing my toes, she'd whack my feet with a stick. So, I mean, there's gentler ways of teaching, obviously. And, I think yoga would be, tremendous, for young kids. But since I would breathe through my dives or whatever I did, whether it be a dance performance or, you know, even theatrical performance, you know, figuring out where the breath goes, you know, even singing, I mean, you mark where the breath is. And so once I started taking yoga, and Lauren introduced me to yoga about 13 years ago, and I realized that a lot of the things that I practiced, you know, whether it be, you know, performing in diving or gymnastics or whatever, then I naturally did that, you know, and so it was nice to be able to have yoga reinforce that, you know, matching breath with movement. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh. Hi. Yeah.
How did you make the transition from diving to training dogs?
Transition from diving to training dogs. You know, I learned a lot about teaching through my diving because my coach, I mean, Ron O'Brien, I had one coach that was really, you know, tough. I mean, he would have a bamboo stick if we were jumping out too far away from the board. You know, he'd be swinging the pole and, you know, we'd get whacked if we jumped out too far away from the board. So, I mean, and he was very, you know, militant. He also said that I would never make it as a diver because I didn't have the killer instinct. And, you know, what Ron O'Brien did is he got me. I mean, he understood. I mean, my diving was a performance. I always looked at it as a performance because I had been performing on stage since I was 3 years old. And so, you know, Ron understood me, and it was much more positive, you know, a lot more positive reinforcement, and that's what I really thrived on. That's where I really kind of excelled, because I spent my last 10 years of my diving career with Ron O'Brien. So he taught me a lot about teaching, and one thing that he always said was that he would give us something positive to get our attention, then he'd give us a critique, you know, something that he wants us to adjust, and then he'd end on a positive, you know, some type of compliment. So it's constructive criticism sandwiched between two positives, basically, you know, and I compete in dog agility. So if you're hard on your dog, you know, like if you do the whole Cesar Millan thing, oh God, he drives me nuts. It's, you know, I'm not a real anti-person, but that's the one group that I belong to, anti-Cesar. You know, when I first saw it, I thought it was a joke, you know, because like who would do that to their beloved pet? And so I thought it was a joke, and then people actually believed him. But nobody does that type of dog training anymore. It's all positive reinforcement. Ignore the bad behavior, reward the good behavior, then the good behavior is more apt to be repeated. In dog agility, if you're hard on your dog, they're going to slow down because they don't want to be wrong. You know, so you have to make it, everything's a game, you know, play is work and work is play. So it's all a game. And you know, it's dog agility, it's 20 obstacles, you know, jumps, tunnels, weave pulls, dog walk, teeter, A-frame. And you want the dog to be as fast as they possibly can be. So, you know, you really, you know, want them, you know, charging, you know, and just, you know, reward when they're correct, and ignore when they're not correct. You know, and understanding that a lot of times it's not the dog's fault, it's your fault. You know, so take responsibility of, you know, of your dog's behavior. So that, you know, I just love the behavior stuff, you know, with the dogs, and also to bring, you you know, a more positive way of teaching, you know, to dogs. So that's kind of how I got involved in dog agility, and you know, I just love animals.
And most of Greg's dogs come to class.
Yeah, I almost brought one today, but I didn't know what the setup was, so. I've got 2 little Jack Russells. My first breed was Great Danes. I had Harlequin Great Danes, and then now I've got 2 Jack Russell Terriers and a Border Collie and Hungarian Pumi. The Hungarian Pumi she's the baby of the group. She's 2.5 now, and she's the one that I'm trying to get used to people. You know, she's just afraid of everything. I don't know. It'll be interesting. She's doing pretty good, though.